Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is June 17th, and we've got a packed episode full of Houston upgrade news. We're talking about RPL price action, and I think that's going to take up most of the episode. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, we're going to start here with an event that came through on Rocket Watch, and this was the Houston upgrade complete. So this happened on block number 20107789, and it was done yesterday on the 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern time, or on the 17th if you are in Europe or everywhere else in the world, basically anywhere east of the USA. So yeah, congratulations to the team for all the amazing work they put into this. We've already been over what's in Houston a few times, but we'll do that again in a few minutes. But bang on 8 o'clock, it was upgraded. Everything went through without a hitch. Well, almost everything. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And the rocket took off from the pool. So it was pretty amazing stuff. It was really, really great stuff. So huge kudos goes out to the team for that. And then here Kane shared a picture or image of the ASCII art on Node, and it says Rocket Pool decentralized staking protocol for Ethereum Houston has launched. So this was absolutely fantastic. Let me just give this some more emoji likes because there's not enough emoji likes there. And yeah, that's it. Like, Houston has been upgraded. So for those of you who don't remember what's in Houston, which I don't know if there's anyone out there who watches this who still doesn't know, the main thing is that we will get on-chain voting. And with Houston, that's the main thing. And then the other thing is the stake ETH on behalf of a node and a separate RPL withdrawal address. And then there's some small quality of life changes about timing for price oracle updates and how that works for topping up your node collateral. So that's all the stuff that goes into Houston. Of course, as always, there was a live stream, and this live stream was hosted by ETH Staker. So thank you so much for Remy, Nixo, and others at ETH Staker whose names I'm probably forgetting now. So thank you all for helping with the live stream. I think it was a really fun live stream. Everybody had a great time. Yeah, it was really good. So thank you all for that. And there were a couple of little pieces of information that came through in live stream. And one of them was in talking about the Houston upgrade, and one of the aftermaths of that being let me actually just show you all here. So one of the things that came up was, they were talking about node set being like a layer 2 on Rocket Pool, and then Langers during the call said there's also another node set like system in development. So I literally, like, on the stream, my face was like, oh, like shocked face. But that was on the back end, in the Zoom call part, not on the YouTube part. So Langers actually, like, around, I think the timestamp here is just around 29 minutes or something like that in the call. Langers just kind of like looks at me and was just like, you already know what it is, Wack. And I'm just like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. But and then Kane was like, oh, it's Wack set. Like node set but Wack set. And then Samus says it's node Wack. But no, it's none of those things. It's actually a mixture of Rocket Lend and Varun together. Now, for those of you who don't know, Rocket Lend is a protocol/contract that Ramana is developing that will help people borrow RPL to stake on their validators. So this again is something that will break down the relationship between the RPL holder, the ETH holder, and the node operator. Like, it will help you divide that out. And then Varun is like a staking service that Ramana and Owls and LFO and I think a couple of other people are working on together as well. And it's kind of like a alternative to all nodes, and the combo of those two together will really let people mix and match their ETH and RPL exposure in a way that like could be kind of like another node set. I never really thought of it like that, but that would be really cool. But yeah, I literally had no idea what Langers was referring to. And earlier on, like, we were talking about how I'm really good at keeping secrets because people like tell me things and I don't share that information until the right time. And this time I was just like, I literally have no idea what's going on. And Val made a really funny comment. He said, the reason why I don't know what's going on is because the reason why I'm so good at keeping secrets is because I always forget what the secret was. So that was a nice comment from Val. But yeah, there's a whole lot of talk that was going on. Like, everybody was really happy with the upgrade. It went really, really smoothly. It was really great. Like, I think the whole community was just like totally vibing, and it was really fun. So that go back and watch the call if you didn't watch it. Like, I think it was just a good time. But the fact that, you know, if you're watching it in real time, like, it felt like it was a whole community endeavor that was kind of going on at the same time. It was really good. So yeah, that was about Varun, and sorry, Rocketland. And then of course there's a POAP for the call. So here Vaka kind of pulled out the information, and it says that the price was 0.0003 ETH, which was around $1, and that was to be sent to ethstaker.eth. And there was also an address that you could send it to, and that was available on Mainnet, Optimism, Arbitrum, or Base. So that's really nice that you could do that. And then if you want to have a look at the POAP, you can see the POAP looks like this. It's just a standard ETH Staker community call POAP, and then they just change out the number. So this was number 40, and the description is what tells you that this was about Houston. So it says ETH Staker community call number 40, Rocket Pool Houston upgrade live stream. It says holders of this POAP celebrated Rocket Pool's Houston upgrade on the ETH Staker live stream, and this has been minted by 66 people. Now, it seems like they were minted as recently as 9 hours ago, so I don't know if that is because they stopped minting them after that time, or if you're still able to mint them. You might want to reach out to someone from ETHStaker about that, but I can't answer that question for you. Now, I said that, you know, Houston went fairly smoothly. Oh, actually, that's coming next. So right away, we started talking about, you know, what is the community voting power going to look like? What are some of the first things that we're going to be voting on? And Non-Fungible Yoakum says the main thing that we'll be voting on is IMC and GMC payments, you know, for them to get their money out. And here Jasper said Security Council as well. So we can expect some votes to be coming up soon that, you know, will need the access to the Guardian wallet. But that's actually pretty exciting. So definitely keep your you know, eyes open for that. It should be coming soon, hopefully. And then yeah, this is one of the small problems that happened with the Houston upgrade, and that was that some of the Grafana dashboard fields broke. And then Sneaky Ninja Guy was the one who brought that up. He says, was Houston supposed to break some of the Grafana fields? Patches says yes, it was incredibly deliberate. Sneaky was a bit confusing, hey. And then Patches says, fine, it was not deliberate, but we know about it. And Joe kind of reassured him, saying it's a simple mistake, it's an easy fix. Fornax already has version 1.13.5 ready. And Butter asked whose fault was it, and Joe said it was Butter's fault. And then here, then we get the update from Fornax. So he says, today we released version 1.13.5 for the smart node. This release fixes a bug, adding a missing reference to an Atlas contract address to fetch past events. The issue is preventing users from claiming past rewards and to see some Grafana fields. So this has been updated and fixed. So it's all looking good now. So if that is something that, you know, you should update the system if you're a bit behind on your smart nodes. There's no POAP now, which means that, you know, everyone's kind of behind on it. So that's definitely one to keep in mind. Okay, actually, before I go to the next story, I want to show you all the RPL price chart. And I was going to bring that up in a little while, but this is part of the next story. So you all know that, you know, last week on Thursday night, Friday morning, we had this huge pump that took us from like $18 all the way to $36, which was like, you know, pretty much 100% pump on the day. Since that time, you know, the following day, the price kind of retraced a little bit all the way down to like $22 in that kind of region. However, a couple of nights ago, the price decided to start going back up again, and it really did look like there was another short squeeze potentially brewing. Like, you were just seeing buys coming in again and again on Binance. The price reached as high as like $30.78, and then $30.52. So it was like there was a double try basically of that happening, and it didn't quite work out the second time like it did the first time. The cascade didn't start. but I feel like that there's something going on here where people are looking at the price of RPL and that is something like that. There's something going on here, like behind the scenes. So even then, like since then, it looks like there've been this impulse moves up of trying to get, like, you can see this wick. Just like an hour ago, there's this wick up to like $29 basically. From around 26, where the price is kind of hanging out. That's a nice big pump basically in that such a short time. But they haven't quite been able to catch any kind of cascades. But that's definitely something I think people should keep an eye on. If you are borrowing RPL to stake it, please be careful with your position because I really do think that there's some kind of like fuckery going on behind the scene, pardon my language. So don't get caught up in that, like people did get caught up last week, with that 100% move. A whole bunch of Rocket Pool node operators got liquidated. So the news, of course, of the move that happened last week started to kind of reverberate through the wider crypto community. And here, Laura Shin, who hosts the Unchained podcast and Unchained Crypto News Service, says as the Rocket Pool community is gearing up for its upcoming Houston upgrade, RPL jumped from $19 as high as $35 before settling down around $24. The price surge helped trigger roughly $1.5 million in liquidations. And then they're saying there's a report here. So this was actually really interesting because they actually made it their lead story on Unchained. And like if you have a look at their front page, it's actually the big story, like, price surge in Rocket Pool's RPL triggers liquidations, and they're kind of linking it to the Houston upgrade. We all know that it was more to do with short squeezes. Maybe, the first ideas got started because of Houston upgrade whale marriages, potentially, like people buying into that news. But the main thing really was, the liquidation cascade upwards. And then here there's an article they have as well. And in the article, you can read it. So the planned upgrade is happening, and here's what the price is doing, blah, blah, blah. And if you are looking to, you can read it. But they saw that, there were like liquidations on Aves, version 349 of them. And there's a Dune Analytics dashboard that was created that shows that information. And then they talked a little bit about the Houston upgrade. And here they even got quotes from Jasper. As you can never predict what the market will do, but it's reasonable to expect the market to positively price in the upgrade, especially after a number of delays. And then there's other people as well who are saying about how it might not be the big driver. So Dissenting Charlie Mercado, a data scientist at blockchain analytics firm Flipside Crypto, says people think the Houston upgrade is a big deal, but I'm not sure it actually is. It's cool, but it's probably not the primary driver for RPL volatility. The price movement could just have been the partner buying RPL for Houston. It could have been the short hunter who wanted to trigger liquidations, wrote Jasper. So then they actually talked about the RPL token to get a revamp. Also underway is a number of tokenomics proposals, which Jasper says should help RPL find a more sustainable long-term valuation. And then they're talking about Houston basically and how that is looking. So it's actually like a quite nice little article, and you can give it a read. But the fact that people, so this is my theory, right? Like my theory is like, when the price moves, it puts attention on your token. And there's two things that can happen in that situation. One is that there's something positive going on, which will drive more attention to your token. And the second is that people realize that it was just a pump and dump, and in which case people will kind of get turned off and just go away from your token or your protocol. Now, when we got this price pump, 100%, like it really caught a lot of attention. People were talking about Rocket Pool all over the place in really positive terms, as I talked about on Friday's episode. Now, what's happened then is people came and looked, right? They said, what's actually going on with RPL that might explain this? Let's see if there's something under the surface. And when they scratch the surface even a tiny little bit, they see, Houston whale marriages happening at the protocol level. They'll see like node set, they'll see things about Saturn and Saturn 1 and Saturn 2. There's a whole lot of stuff that's going on over here. Just as you just scratch the surface and you see all this amazing stuff, that is the kind of situation where the attention is more sustained then, because people are just like, hey, wait a minute, there's something real happening here. A lot of what happened in Rocket Pool, the people were saying, oh, RPL's in the death spiral, the protocol's in the death spiral, this is it, it's finished, it's dead. With that price move, though, people came and had a look and they were like, oh, wait, this isn't dead. There's actually stuff happening here. There's a path to getting TVL growth in the short term. Like, with whale marriages, you could potentially get another 100,000 ETH potentially, coming into the protocol. With Node set, you might get that much again. With Saturn 1 and 2, the sky's the limit, right? Like, these are the kind of things that people will just, before previously dismissing Rocket Pool as just being a dead protocol, but now they're actually paying attention to it. Now, that might be for better or worse. Like, we got burned by hype a year ago with Atlas. I think people are being a lot more cautious with hyping Rocket Pool now on RPL, but the reality of the matter is, like, the price did move 100%. It did retrace somewhat, but it's still holding up really well. And then the second thing to pay attention to is, like, there are all these, like, fundamental upgrades happening. So when you couple, price action with fundamental upgrades, with potential hype happening with these whale partnership marriage things that should be announced soon, hopefully, when you put all of those three things together, it's a sign of a thriving or potentially, like, blossoming protocol. And that's one of the things that I think, will be really good for Rocket Pool, like, in these next few months, if things work out the way that we all hope they will. Now, this is what I was saying about Saturday. Like, I kind of, moved forward with my price talk a little bit, but there was some really, really big buys coming in, and the ratio went up really strongly. Not, of course, as high as it did on Thursday, when it went to 0.01, but it was in, like, comfortably in the 0.008s. I think it went up to 0.0085 at one point. So it's performing really strongly. That made me write this post on ETH Finance as it was happening. And I was saying that I think there's another short squeeze brewing here, and people are, like, driving up the price. And if people shorted, which it looks like they did after that big move up, then there's a possibility that there'll be a whole bunch of people who are caught in those short positions and they're in losing positions. And if they get liquidated, it might cause another liquidation cascade. Now, that other liquidation cascade didn't happen, but this is what I mean about, like, people on the outside kind of looking at Rocket Pool and just being like, hey, what's going on over here? So Tricky Troll, who's one of the moderators in ETH Finance, says, I no longer gamble on altcoins, but I must admit my counter-narrative investing alarm has been blaring on RPL for the last month or so. It was nothing but FUD from even some of the most die-hard Rocket Pool fans. Even for people like you, speaking to me, and Jasper, you had to open comments by acknowledging the bad price action, like a disclaimer before getting into your updates. Hopefully my gut is right, the bottom is well in, and the rocket ship is now back on course. And this is the kind of thing that's happened, is where people saw the price move, they saw all this bad sentiment, and then like thinking, okay, the bottom is in now. And the fact that people are now starting to think that the bottom is in will make them more hopeful of investing in RPL potentially. So yeah, really, really, really cool stuff happening there. And there's one more thing here as well before we move on. This was like a huge update from Marceau. He says, guys, I have an important update. The ratio is boobs, and the price was 0.0080085, which is BOOBS. So, you can always expect and rely on Marceau to bring the highbrow contributions to the community. Okay, next we've got a bunch of things coming up from the governance and the forum, and we're going to start here with these posts from Noshua. So he said the posts were up for RPIPs. So we actually talked about these last week, or the week before even now, when he first mentioned that there was these three post RPIPs that he was drafting, and one was for node distributor user fund unbundling, one was for MEV penalty guardrail, and next was for balance submissions guardrail. So these are all ODAO duties that Noshua was kind of like trying to make adjustments to, make changes to. So let's have a look what happened. So we read through these before. The community, on Rocket Fuel, well, we started getting some replies here. Ramana said, this is awesome, I fully support it. Valdo says, no reason not to fix this. And then today, what happened, well, yesterday actually, what happened was Noshua put through some sentiment polls. So, we can move on to the next stage of the RPIP process. And here we see the sentiment poll is 100% of people saying this is great, and we support moving this to vote. And then with the next one, this is MEV penalty guardrail. Again, this one had a little bit more replies. Ramana said this work has been criminally neglected. So happy to see progress on these. Pateris says, if the Oracle DAO gets compromised, they can upgrade contracts and steal all funds. There will be a 7-day delay during which you can exit. However, there's no delay on limit for applying penalties. Blah, blah, blah. He says, I think this makes sense to have this guardrail. I support this. Wooden Ship says, this is a missing piece, important missing piece. Yoakum says, combination of forced exits, and this will with this guardrail is frankly a critical piece to keep trust assumptions in place in the ODAO constraint as well. So here we had a lot of positivity as well, and people voted, and we had 29 votes. 90% of them said that this is great, and 3 of them, 10%, said that this is good enough. So that was fantastic to see as well. And then finally, we had this balance submission guardrail, and this one had the most feedback of all. Aldov said this makes sense, but Ramana said one big downside here is having to admit Noshua did something useful, which is a bit of a joke, considering some of the things that have been said about Noshua recently. Dr. Lufa said this looks pretty good. Non-fungible Joachim says, I'll repeat what I said in the guardrail proposal, that this is crucial. And in the sentiment poll, and here 89% of people voted to say this is great and moving it to a vote, and 11% of people said this is good, I'm okay with moving it to a vote, and 0% people abstained or opposed any of these so far, which is really cool. And then there was some more back and forth between Neverland Island and Noshua, and you can read that yourselves if you want. So if you are curious about these RPIPs, or these draft RPIPs I should say, then go and give them a read, and go and vote in the sentiment polls on the forum. Okay, sticking with the forum, actually, this was a really interesting post that came through. So, you all know a couple of weeks ago we had the tokenomics rework explainers that I spent a whole lot of time talking through and explaining them to you all. Well, we had some back and forth in the Discord, in the forum, about people people talking about this. Well, we actually got a really big piece of information and feedback that came in from Mikey. So Mikey is a representative of 1KX. Now, for those of you who don't know, 1KX is actually one of the bigger node operators on Rocket Pool. We actually did talk about them last week about splitting their nodes and their validators. A couple of weeks ago, I think they were doing that. But they're I think the second biggest after Patricio and Marco Barco. They've got like a control of hundreds of validators. Oh, actually on Thomas as well, of course. And Mikey says, that they appreciate the community's work on doing the tokenomics work. He says, we believe that proceeding with select proposed RPIPs will allow the protocol to scale effectively without compromising security and decentralization. We hear them mention RPIP 42 and 44, RPIP 43, RPIP 46. So these, they say that, will help boost TVL, help efficiency, with gas efficiencies, and also will help, adjust things to make them better. Then they had some questions. I said certain other proposals and aspects require careful community evaluation, as their cost-benefit dynamics are far more complex and necessitate thoughtful decision making. The first one that they mentioned here is RPIP 46, which is about the universal adjustable revenue split, and they talk about how that is going to set up the surplus revenue and what's going to happen with that. So they actually presented a couple of ideas about like the burn and buying liquidity, and they were kind of presenting negative the information about them, showing that protocols that use the buyback and burn didn't necessarily their tokens didn't fare that well. And then talking about buyback and liquidity here as well, they said one thoughtful alternative is to burning is to buy back and provide liquidity. But then here as well, they were saying that it didn't actually, it might not make that much of a difference. It might not help that much. It won't be something that people really look at in terms of thinking of it as a big boost to the protocol. They said although it would help the user experience, it wouldn't necessarily. It says the liquidity, deepen liquidity organically due to natural product market fit flywheel, wherein more adoption lead to more swaps, LP fees, and therefore more liquidity. It says we expect that RPL delegation is implemented. Operators will use this method to create new validators rather than acquiring RPL in the open market. Thus lessens the value proposition for them. Moreover, deeper RPL liquidity does not significantly affect the average holder's experience. And then they go on to talk about the removal of RPL, and it says that this should be used as collateral, should be considered further. And then they kind of said that without the RPL collateral requirement, the incentive to hold RPL is weakened, which decreases the buy-in of those invested in Rocket Health. And it says we believe the delegation will solve all the problems surrounding RPL friction for node operators. delegation allows RPL holders, whether to be institutional investors or community members, to earn active yield on their holdings. In addition to price upside, this replaces the need for node operators to buy and hold RPL themselves. A delegation marketplace can emerge, enabling competitive dynamics around RPL staker and node operator commission splits. And then they're talking about we're excited about many of the proposals in the framework, and we want to do this. So people were quite happy that they got 12 likes on the forum, which was really great that they're contributing in such a thoughtful way. Val was quick to respond. He says, "Thank you for the thoughtful take. My first thought is that your core premises isn't fully considered throughout your response. Its benefits are counted and its drawbacks are not mentioned or ignored." So then Val kind of went through step by step on their comment and kind of like explained what he saw and what he thought. With some of the things like what he mentioned was, you mentioned the burn and buy an LP, but you didn't mention the voter share. And Val, kind of reiterated that he's happy with any three of those happening with a voter share. They were talking about like adding what's his name? How like adding ways of choosing who to delegate to can make the protocol more centralized and make it more complicated. And then there was like other things about a different perspective on buyback and burn, about how buying back and burning helps a protocol as long as they're burning, but it doesn't necessarily automatically make it go up only. If a protocol was going to go down by 10% and it burned 2%, then it would only go down by 8% instead. If it was going to go up by 10% and it burned 2%, then it would go up by 12%. It's how it kind of like dampens the downside volatility and boosts the upside volatility potentially. But then talking about how the collateral requirement as well, and Val kind of spent some time here about doing a thought experiment, he says, where everyone's at 10% borrowed value RPL staked either with the current structure or the variant where all surplus share is directed to vote eligible RPL. In this case, everyone would get the same amount of ether under either system. There might be tiny variations because the voter share component is socialized instead of being linked with one's own validators. This is, I'll address the voter share versus burn LP elsewhere. I want to use the most straightforward comparison here. He says, now let's change something, let's allow some ETH owning operators with the new tokenomics. This additional growth gives RPL holding operators much more ETH. In other words, the incentive to hold staked RPL is at least the same. Everyone has the same relative stake, or better, some people have lower or no stake. So this is what Val was hinting at before as well, when he said that requiring RPL will limit the growth of the protocol still, even though people can get into marriages or buying it more or put in wrappers or all this kind of stuff. The fact is that having ETH only will dramatically increase the amount of ETH that RPL holders will get, even if it's just all surplus. So Val was kind of arguing against having RPL collateral requirement as necessary. And then he says that we still need to have bigger discussions about the surplus and what's going to happen with that. And then he goes on and explains some more things as well about what things might look like, about market share, etc., and how things might go. So this was actually a really long and thoughtful piece as well. And Mikey said, one of the main aims of our soon-to-be presented mechanisms is to boost Rocket Pool's rETH branding in the ecosystem in the crypto space, thereby promoting broader adoption. Val says that sounds really exciting. In general, I appreciate that you brought up rETH holders multiple times in the post. They really are our lifeblood. I don't think we get as much attention, and they don't get as much attention as they should. And then here, Long for Wisdom responded as well. I actually haven't had a chance to read this yet, so I'm sorry that I won't be able to summarize that for you. But Mikey responded by saying, I already posted this on Discord, but thank you for putting this together. Very helpful context. So there's some good feedback there. So if you want to get involved in that discussion, definitely go and check that out. But it's really cool that node operators who are quite sizable, who have a lot on the line, are getting involved in these discussions. Okay, and the last bit of updates from the forum here is Rocket Pool notifications. So this is a bounty that was selected by the GMC, and Shifrin here says, notify a notification platform creator has submitted a mock-up demonstrating a potential custom platform for Rocket Pool. So they've got like some information here of like what you want to be notified about. And it says check the full 13-page mockup here. Then there's a link that you can go and select that. But here are some potential use cases for their platform. So they've got governance digest, bi-weekly news, smart node updates, snapshot votes, management committee news, additional updates and notifications as needed. It says, would you be interested in GMC funding a custom notification solution for Rocket Pool? And then yes or no. Let's see what the results are. No for 86% of people, and one, Dr. Doofus, says yes. And then there's some discussion. Patchy says depends on the final cost. How much are they asking for? Valdo says I'm a big believer in a single source of truth for protocol broadcast. That's currently Discord. We also use Discord to support and community building, so onboarding folks there is valuable, aka there is value in getting people to join the Discord for the broadcasts. Insofar as it has the same content, it's redundant. Insofar as folks use it instead of Discord, it damages the value of having folks active on Discord. I do like the look and the work to make the offering understandable. So that was Val's feedback. So it looks like most people aren't really that interested in it. If you are interested in something like this, please pop by the forum and give your feedback about whether you like this or not. But yeah, they've got a 13-page mock-up as well that you can go and have a look at and see what it looks like. And of course, you know, Rocket Fuel is kind of a source of truth for Rocket Pool as well as the protocol. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to comment on my thoughts about that because I'm a GMC member, and yeah. Okay, one of the things that happened on Friday morning after Friday morning's pump, Thursday night, Friday morning's pump, was that a whale started selling a whole lot of RPL, like literally thousands of RPL in a batch, and people were like, oh no, they're selling into liquidity, and like, you know, this is them using this pump as exit liquidity. They had, I think, over 100,000 RPL. Well, it turned out that that's not what was happening, and what ended up happening was that that person, they sold a bunch of RPL into ETH, and okay, I'm on the wrong network. Which, sorry about that, because I was doing ZK stuff today. Yeah, so what ended up happening was that this person, they didn't just like, you know, sell all the RPL and leave. They actually sold the RPL and put it into a liquidity position. So they have the current prices of RPL here is, yeah, I'm not even actually sure what I'm looking at. It says position is closed. Let me have a look. Back to the pool. I don't have a position. I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, it ended up being that the person like provided liquidity instead. So I don't know why I can't see this. This person is the owner. Yeah. So what they did was they actually have no RPL. Yeah, they've gone down to 0 RPL in this wallet. But I don't know what ended up happening. Let me have a look. I can go back. Yeah, so they were sending out a whole lot of RPL here. This was 3 days ago. And then they sold it. Yeah, they sent it out from their wallet, 80,000 RPL to Uniswap version 3, RPL 4. But then I don't know where I went after that. But anyway, yeah, so this person ended up providing a whole lot of liquidity. Let me see if I can actually find it. RPL. Sorry about this. Okay. So this one is ETH RPL. It's the one that has the most liquidity and volume. So over the last 7 days, it has $27 million of volume. And one of the things that has changed now is that we actually have, let me see if I can see where the liquidity is. Liquidity pools, blah, blah, blah. That's just telling you about like buys and sells that have been happening. Here it is, liquidity. Right, so this is where we are right now. That's the price, yeah, and then there's within the low liquidity zone. So I guess the person provided liquidity and then removed liquidity. I'm not very good at figuring out where it all went, and especially figuring it out on the fly. But yeah, it looks like that's what happened, but then I don't know what happened after that. But sorry, that's a bit of a non-story there for you all. Okay, next we had an update from Stake Rocket Pool, and this was about then the bi-weekly rETH DeFi update. This is Aura Finance hosts the mainnet rETH RPL pool that has the highest APR on Rocket Pool risk optimized DeFi sheet. The APR is over 33%. As always, do your own research, but we hope rpldefi.com can help. And now this is the first time in like a few weeks that PancakeSwap has been replaced, and Aura here has taken the lead. So they've got some amazing swap fees going on there. That's because it's the rETH RPL pool, and there was a lot of volume for RPL last week because of the pump. So those fees have gone up to 30%, and that's where that number is coming from, because it's all swap fees. There's very little actually in terms of incentives there, but that is some really, really nice swap fees, like 30%. And then if you have a look at the actual regular strategies, like Balancer has 9.5%, Beethoven has 9.2%, Balancer on base, and those first two were in optimism. Balancer on base has 3.3% to 8%, and Balancer on Arbitrum has 3% to 6%. And then if you look on mainnet, there's Gamma, which has 8.2%. PancakeSwap has 12%. So yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that that rETH pool was getting so much in fees because of the liquidations, it would have been that PancakeSwap again was the top yielding protocol. And then Balancer rETH RPL, well, that's the one that had 33% there. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on these sheets to see what kind of liquidity incentives are out there. And you know, you could be using your rETH in some really cool ways. Okay, next we got an update from Ramana, and this was about Rocket Lend. And here he's talking about development of Rocket Lend. He said the code has already been written, but the front end hasn't been written, and the protocol design and the code hasn't been iterated on, beta tested, audited, etc. All that stuff stands between this existing for real versus being a prototype. The protocol fee is the part where I feel most out of my depth in how to design it well. What I'm really looking for is collaborators or partners, possibly the GMC, possibly someone else who wants to come in and work on this stuff out with, i.e. how to bootstrap funding if needed, how to become self-funding if possible. I think it's very good on the dev side, okay on the design and economics side, and pretty shit on the biz side. So trying to fill gaps with the community, open call for collaborators. And Ramana said that he's actually looking for co-founders or yeah, basically like people to really like, you know, take an active position on this. And like Langer said in the call, you know, that this potentially could be quite exciting for the protocol, and it could help Rocket Pool grow going forwards. So that, of course, I don't think is an endorsement from Langers, but it's just that he's potentially excited about the idea as well. So if you're interested, please reach out to Ramana. He's always looking for people to collaborate with him. So maybe you can be that person. Okay, so I was asked this question on the airdrop hunting channel about the best way to farm a layer 2. What happened is ZK Sync has launched its token that went live trading this morning, and people are now wondering, you know, what to farm next. And people talking about farming Scroll or farming other L2s. And Rocket Doc asked me for advice because I got, you know, a nice airdrop from ZK Sync, and like, you know, to share my techniques and my philosophy about airdrop farming. Now, one of the things I should make clear is ZK Sync was the only airdrop that I ever farmed. I did it actually over the course of like nearly 2 years. I worked out that I spent 18 hours a month, 1 hour every month for 18 months farming the airdrop, like just going on there and doing some activities and stuff. And because of that, you know, I was rewarded with a really nice airdrop. And people just wanted to know what my strategy was. So I shared the information with Rocket Doc, and maybe that will help some of you all who are interested in farming airdrops as well. So I said I haven't farmed it myself, but if they're similar to ZK Sync, then here are the things for you to do. Number one is when you move your crypto to a layer 2, don't take it back out, like leave it there. So this was some of the criteria that was in the Arbitrum airdrop. They really rewarded people leaving their crypto there. This was a huge contributing factor to ZK Sync airdrop, and that being well rewarded is that people left their crypto there if they got multipliers. I said do swaps between cryptos at least once a month. I did it every 4 weeks. So every fourth Saturday, I'd have a call with my friend, and we both kind of like work through it together and like kind of help each other like figure out what our strategy should be. And then we did that like 18 times basically for just 1 hour every time. I said switch from one DEX to another to provide liquidity each time you swap. So for example, in month 1, if you're providing liquidity on, for example, Uniswap, then the next month provide liquidity on Balancer, the next month provide liquidity on PancakeSwap, etc., etc. I said switch from one DEX to another to provide liquidity each time you swap. And I said buy up cheap NFTs and therefore any platform NFTs that they have. So for example, in Arbitrum, they have Arbinauts. Those are kind of like the canonical Arbitrum NFTs. On ZK Sync, they had Libertas, I think it's called. I'm not sure. I forgot the name. I didn't buy that one. But that's normally something that's quite well rewarded. I said interact with cheap games, etc. If there are any apps that are cheap, like just go, like, buy their NFT, buy their token, like just a few of them, just to keep them in your wallet. I said you should be doing 10 nonces a month, which means that you should be doing 10 transactions every month, just to build it up with the goal of trying to get over 100 transactions. And then I said, you need to figure out like what kind of pairs you want to be providing liquidity for. Like, do you want to be providing liquidity for ETH/ETH-like pairs? Like, for example, ETH rETH or ETH like Lido's STETH, for example, or rETH STETH? Or do you want to do like USD pairs? So USDC, USDT, or LUSD, GRAI, for example. I said the best thing to do is mix and match. So swap in and out of those different tokens, but try to keep it consistent. And then what you do is you provide liquidity in those different tokens. So I said if you're doing USD, then that might help you avoid taxes, because it depends if you're using the first in, first out tax basis for your calculating method. If you are, then definitely be careful about that, because you will be resetting your cost basis on ETH every time you're doing that. So that was just some of the tips that I gave. But it seems like people are, like providing liquidity or taking loans on Aave, etc. The liquidity providing on DEXs is one of the things that's very, very, very well valued by the protocols. So I just thought I'd share that advice with all of you all to see if it's helpful for you. I actually didn't submit it myself. Someone else submitted it to cover on the show because I guess they thought it might be useful for other people. Okay, next I want to share this positivity that came from Joe being around in the community. So Joe says, hey dudes, it's nice to see people happy again. Looks like you're taking advantage of whatever the hell that liquidation cascade was in terms of the socials, getting the word out on the new tokenomics and stuff. How's the reaction so far? So SNG says, hey Joe. He says, hey SNG. And Charles says, happy left posting and buying during the doldrums. Don't hear the noise, Joe. Also, congrats on your new gig. He says, thanks, Chief. I'm enjoying it. The NodeSet team are a bunch of good guys, even though he is the NodeSet team now. So he's a good guy. And then he was talking about his baby and happy Father's Day. It was early Father's Day. That's when like the price started moving. So there was more excitement. But I think one of the things that's really interesting is that Joe is a really cool guy and he really loves like the people in the community. And I think he thought there was like negativity around for a while. And the price, like I've been saying for so long, right? Like price action breeds negativity. Negative price action breeds negativity. Positive price action breeds positivity. And everybody wants to be around when the price is positive because everyone's nicer to be around. When the price is negative, it's not fun. There were moments where I was in trading or in the Rocket Pool Discord and I was just like, this isn't fun. Like right now, like it's just like FUD after FUD, negativity after negativity, people like sniping, making like sarcastic remarks, like in a really shitty way. And like you don't want to be around that. You know what I mean? Like if you've only got a limited amount of time to spend like with your friends online, you might want to come to trading and just like, shitpost with your friends, which is really fun. But if you have to kind of like wade through a whole lot of like fudding and like negativity, it just isn't fun to do. So that price pump like last week, I think actually before that as well, like Joe popped in and like told us about the Proteus and just like about his new job and stuff, and like that was all awesome. And I think he just got like such a warm like and friendly reception that he was willing to come back again. And then of course the price change has really helped. So I think like with Marceau coming back as well and kind of like meme posting this weekend and Joe coming back and like just talking a little bit, I think all of these things are like really nice signs that hopefully people, and this is that like we literally started seeing it right away that there was so much positivity in the community, that hopefully people will start to pay attention to Rocket Pool in a positive way again. And I think once the price gets above 0.01. I think that's a psychological threshold. Once we get above that point and start sustaining prices above there, I think a whole lot of people will start to feel much better about Rocket Pool, the protocol. And hopefully, that this might be a bit of wishful thinking, but if we can get up to like 0.02 or something like that, once we get most of our node operators back above, collateral levels, back into profitability, that I think will be a huge boost to the protocol in terms of like socials and sentiment, which is really cool. But having Joe around always makes me happy, and he's always welcome whenever he wants, and he's welcome to talk about whatever he wants as well. So nice to see you again, Joe. And some other news, we've got something really exciting coming out of Canada for once. No, I'm just joking, my Canadian friends. So Canada has just launched the world's first ETH staking ETF. So Canada was actually like on the vanguard of getting Bitcoin and ETH ETFs out last year, I think, or even the year before. Like they've been doing it for a while. They're not big ETFs, but there's a lot, like they're definitely like the first to get them out. Well, now they're the first to get ETH staking ETF as well. So here, Propose Investment says, exciting news towards we launch Propose ETH staking corp ETF, and that's ETHCB, our first ETH staking ETF and our 5th addition to our world-renowned digital assets lineup. So Propose Investments are the ones who are pushing this out. Like I don't know how big or this fund is or isn't, but that's really exciting that they're getting there. I think that actually this kind of action happening in Canada and then maybe the UK, Australia, these other markets that are kind of friendly with the US, if they get ETH staking ETFs out in all of these, then it's possible that when the ETH staking ETF comes to the desk of the SEC, it'll be much better, much more likely to be accepted, which of course would be pretty cool. And I'm going to finish today's episode with some questions from Blue AVM. Blue AVM says, would it be possible to explain about upcoming releases, Saturn 1, Saturn 2, and related probabilities in details in Rocket Fuel? I mean, there's too many moving parts these days. It's hard to keep up with it all. This is high-level intro of mega pools, max EB, token changes, ETH-only mini pools, and other enhancements, independencies of above enhancements, what Saturn 1 might contain and why, and what might Saturn 2 have. It says something on these lines might help set the stage for upcoming Rocket Fuel episodes. So what I'm going to do is, just to give a shout out to Blue AVM, like this episode has gone quite long anyway, but I am going to cover this story in every Rocket Fuel this week, just to give you all like a bit of a reminder of what's coming up in future upgrades. So there's like 4 or 5 questions here. So I'll answer one of them each day at the end of each episode for this week. So on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you had a really good weekend. Like that price action was really fun. The fact that we've held on to so much of that move is really heartening. And I think that there's going to be really good stuff ahead, especially if we get some of these announcements about whale marriages happening at the protocol level, maybe next week or within the next few weeks. Hopefully we'll start seeing the first seeds of those starting to blossom. So that is going to be really cool. So on that note, I'll see you all tomorrow, and I hope you all had a lovely weekend, and be good to each other. Bye.